Hey, how are you? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is what is it? Thursday, the 21st of September, and this is a classic guitar rock update. I'm your host Jeremy. Thanks for joining. A few news items. Riot 5. Now this is the band. They currently are called Riot 5, but this is Riot. Maybe one of the greatest bands you've never heard. Riot started out in the late 70s, I think 77. Their first album, Rock City, came out. Narita in 79. Fire Down Under came out in 81. Restless Breed in 82. And I think Born in America was about 83 or 84. Riot is one of those bands that, for whatever reason, they never really took off. But guys, Fire Down Under from 1981 is in my top 10 rock albums of all time. Guy Speranza on lead vocals, who just he quit the band, but a phenomenal vocalist and just a great early metal album. Fire Down Under. If you don't own it, you should own it. You can stream it. Go listen to it right now. Why am I talking about Riot? The current incarnation, Riot 5, which is a good band. They are set to release a new album. Their last album was in 2018. It's called Armor of Light. Now, let me just be completely honest about Riot. In 1988, okay, they had Guy Speranza, and then they had Rhett Forrester, who replaced Guy, who was also a great vocalist, who tragically was killed in a carjacking accident in the late 80s, early 90s. Really sad. But that era of Riot, up through Born in the USA, I love all that stuff. Now, in 88, an album called Thundersteel came out. And this was a whole new sound for Riot. Many people look at this as one of the first, a groundbreaking thrash metal album, speed metal, thrash metal, whatever you want to call it. It was a big departure from what Riot had been doing in the late 70s and early 80s. And it's almost like there's two different bands. There are fans of the more recent, the later Riot that's more speed metal. And then there are, old guys like me that tend to prefer the earlier classic Riot. So if you see Riot live now in the last few years, again, a great band. Their lead singer is great, really good. And there are, I think, maybe a couple original members that are still in the band. It's an interesting juxtaposition, right? Because they got to play their speed metal stuff, but then they also got to go back and play Swords and Tequila and a few of the classic tunes. But they're about to release a new album, and I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. So be watching for that. They'll be let's see, they've inked a deal with Atomic Fire Records, and early 2024, don't have a name for it yet, but there should be a new album out from Riot 5. But I'm imploring you, as a fan of the classic rock, you gotta at least have Fire Down Under from Riot. It's a classic album. Bachman Turner Overdrive. We haven't talked about Bachman Turner Overdrive in a long time. Well, Randy Bachman has revived Bachman Turner Overdrive. Now, BTO has been one of these bands that has kind of splintered. I think at one time there were 2 or 3 different bands calling themselves Bachman Turner Overdrive touring. There was a group called BTO that was touring that had like a former drum tech in the band. I don't know. And I think for a while there was Randy Bachman's Bachman Turner Overdrive. And then I think Fred Turner had so it's one of those deals, right? Well, it looks like, maybe, fingers crossed, that there will actually be a Bachman Turner Overdrive tour coming up this fall. But there's a little confusion. Randy has announced that they will be going on tour. It will feature his son, Tal Bachman. Do you remember Tal? Tal, kind of a one-hit wonder. She's so high above me. Remember that tune back in the 90s? Kind of a catchy tune, actually. Well, Tal is going to be part of this project. And Fred Turner is also, at least what Randy says, Fred, the original singer and one of the original singers, there were a few singers, he's supposedly going to be involved, yet on Fred's social media, he has kind of a weird quote. He says, "I'm so glad to hear Randy is going forward with Bachman Turner Overdrive. I'm sure it will be a great venture, and I hope Randy gets a great kick out of doing this with Tal and the band. The rest of us will be watching and wishing you every success." That doesn't sound like Fred's going to actually be involved. But the original release said maybe it just means Fred has given Randy his blessing for him to do it and call it Bachman Turner Overdrive. I don't know. It's confusing. But anyways, if you're a BTO fan, and I am, here's an opportunity for you. One last item. Genius, misanthrope, Roger Waters. I don't know if you've heard this. He is re-releasing. What do I call this? He's re-releasing a version of Dark Side of the Moon, which is very, and if anyone could do it, it's him, right? It's kind of like when someone puts out a masterpiece and then someone comes and tries to redo it. You're like, why are you doing that? I mean, literally, many consider Dark Side of the Moon the greatest album ever made. And here comes Roger, who says, well, I'm going to do another version of it. Of course, he wrote the first one. That's why I say if anyone could do it, he could do it. So he has already rolled out 4 of his updated versions of these songs. Now, I thought, silly me, I thought it would kind of just be like a re-release, the original recordings with him adding some spoken part. But no, he's completely reinterpreting the album. I've listened to the 4 songs that have come out, and it's not bad. I can't decide if I really like it or I don't like it. But if I don't like it, it's not because it's bad. It's because it's so different. You know, this is an album that many of us have kind of listened to a lot, right? And so you're used to hearing, you know, Speak to Me and Breathe and that, you know, we're used to it sounding the way it is. So when you listen to these new versions, I mean, they are completely different. I mean, very stripped down, a lot of just, you know, like acoustic guitar, and it's more speaking than singing, right? I mean, Roger Waters is 80 and he was never known for being a great vocalist, right? But this is more, a lot of spoken parts with you know, just simple accompaniment in the background. So you listen to, you know, Breathe and Money, and they don't sound anything like what you're used to hearing. There's a lot of spoken parts added over the top. So it's completely different. And let me read this quote. Let me read this quote from him. He says, "I'm immensely proud of what we have created, a work that can sit proudly alongside the original, excuse me, hand in hand across a half century of time," Waters said in a press release announcing the album. "The original Dark Side of the Moon feels in some ways like the lament of an elder being on the human condition. But Dave, Rick, Nick, and I were so young when we made it. And when you look at the world around us, clearly the message hasn't stuck. That's why I started to consider what the wisdom of an 80-year-old could bring to a reimagined version. So it's interesting. It's not going to be an album, and I don't think he intends for it to be an album that will be embraced commercially, because it's not, I mean, you listen to it and it's not something that you'd hear played anywhere, but it is interesting. I would say for big Floyd fans, for big Roger Waters fans, you'll want to check it out. For the rest of us that maybe aren't diehard fans but appreciate Pink Floyd, I don't know. I'm not sure it's something that that we'd get into too much, but it's interesting. You know, it's worth a listen. If it's something you'd revisit and go back and listen to again, I don't know, but it's definitely worth checking out. So that's what I've got for you today. Thank you so much. Thanks for all your support. And again, if you would like to be a subscriber on X, it's only $1 a month, and you can help us take over the world. $1 a month. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next Classic Guitar Rock Update. Bye-bye.